Hello everyone, and welcome back to another MSM Composer prediction video. So in my Ethereal Workshop Composer prediction video, I stated that I might do a video similar to it, but with the auxiliary seasonals, so here we are. In this video, I'll be going over the 9 aux seasonals and what I think they will sound like within the Composer app. I'll be discussing stuff such as split staffs, 2-in-1 notes, and held notes. Like last time, I will be sure to provide both visual and auditory examples if necessary. Enjoy! To start off, I'll talk about the vocalists, the first of which will be Gobbledygook. Gobbledygook is an odd vocalist, to say the least, so predicting what sounds it'll make is a bit difficult, but I do think I have a good idea for what to expect. For starters, I do think that it'll be split-staffed due to its various vocalizations, which mostly consist of gobbly, ga, goo, and a melodic la.
Gobbly gobbly ga, gobbly gobbly goo, gobbly goo.
Right off the bat, I strongly doubt that gobbly will be part of the staff since it is 3 syllables, which is something we have never heard in the app at this moment in time. With all this being established, I would predict Gobbledygook's la to take up the majority of the staff, while ga and goo take up the top few notes. However, the held notes are throwing me for a loop. This is because I stand by the idea that la should receive held notes courtesy of Gobbledygook's sound on seasonal shanty, but their ga and goo do not particularly lend themselves to elongated notes. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments below. For Spirit, I'm going to predict something that could be quite unlikely, but as you all know, I like to be optimistic, so allow me to explain. Instead of having Spirit be your typical 2-in-1 monster, I think they will split huzzah into huzz and za. I believe this because one of Spirit's big things is that they use their huzzah as a transition into the next part of the song. With this being the case, I would feel like it'd be near impossible to make it work without splitting it. Take Nebula for example. Their shuba feels like it's practically out of sync at all times, which I would believe to be the same case if Spirit were to have their huzzah connected. With this being said, I do think Spirit will have other sounds as well, those being ha and ba, both of which come from their fabulous track on Fire Oasis. As for held notes, I don't think it's very plausible for them to receive any, even if I do wish that their huzz could receive extensions. For Homunculus, I think the most likely case is that they'll receive a full staff. With their synthetic choir-like vocals, they're definitely capable of the range presented by the Composer app, and I think it would really highlight Homunculus's vocal skills. The only thing that might thwart the change of Homunculus having a full staff is their breathy sound that they make before they sing. As for Homunculus's held notes, I fully think that they will receive such a feature. For Vivine, they have 2 different aspects to their sounds, the percussive part and the vocal part. With this being the case, it is very likely that they'll have a split staff, but we'll need to dive a bit deeper. For Vivine's vocals, they've shown a fairly broad range of vocalizations, which makes it difficult to predict what the vocal part of their staff may be. The options that we have currently are ooh, oh yeah, and a sneeze. In my personal opinion, I think that the sneeze is more iconic and more likely to be used by players, even if it's not that often. As for Vivine's percussion, there's 2 different sounds that I picked up on. On Amber Island, we can hear Vivine playing both soft and hard dynamics on the maracas, which would definitely be nice to have in the Composer app. With all this being said, I think Vivine's sneeze will take the top 3 notes, while the 2 different maraca sounds will take the rest of the staff. And as you could likely infer, I definitely don't think that Vivine will receive held notes. Now, let's truly move on to the percussion monsters. Whizbang will be a bit of a difficulty for the monster handlers to execute in terms of sounds and more specifically held notes. The reason for that I will go over, but first let's talk about what sounds we can expect Whizbang to produce. First things first, Whizbang will definitely be a split staff monster since there's 2 sounds that I'm quite positive that they will get. The sounds I believe that they'll receive are the squealy build up to the explosion and the firework explosion itself. Now, instead of having different pitches for the firework explosions, I think something really cool we could see are different volumes of explosions for the different notes on the staff. Since it would be pretty hard to replicate the echo effect that Whizbang has, I think this would be a really helpful substitute and could be very versatile if introduced into the app. And now I suppose we should talk about the held notes and the headache it may entail. The dilemma that comes with Whizbang's held notes are similar to Gobbledygurt in the sense that some sounds could warrant held notes, while others not so much. I feel like the squealy buildup relies on there being held notes, while the firework explosion isn't super compatible with the future. Overall, I'm more on the side that Whizbang will receive held notes, but be sure to let me know what you think. For Bookworm, I do think that they, just like any other percussionist, will receive a split staff, but just for 2 different sounds. Similarly to Vivine, I do think they'll get 2 different sounds based on the dynamic differences between how we see them play. Overall, I think the bassiness of their instrument would really be able to shine with the chromatic scale provided in the app. For Clavivera, I think they'll have a split staff since, as stated for Bookworm, they're a percussionist, so it's usually inherent that they'd have more than one type of sound. However, you might be wondering how they would receive more than one sound if all they play is the clave. To answer your question, I realized that Clavivera actually has been shown to play 2 different types of claves on Bone Island, one of which sounds like your typical clave, while the other one sounds more hollow and woody. Once again, we could also expect there to be dynamic notes, again, just like Vivine and Bookworm in their staff, but I wouldn't personally rely on that. But with that being said, although the order doesn't really matter, I would say that the regular clave would get the lower half of the staff, while the hollow clave would get the upper half of the staff. Now, Carolong is still by classification a percussionist, but I'll be putting them in the instrumentalist category since there's only one other instrumentalist out of all the Aux seasonals. Anyway, I do think that Carolong will get a full staff since it doesn't particularly display many sounds other than its chime-esque sounds. As for held notes, it's somewhat complicated. On one hand, their way of playing that is visually represented leads me to believe that they will not receive held notes, but on the other hand, their tracks would lead me to believe that we could expect held notes. Overall, I'd say that the tracks would be more telling of whether or not we'll get held notes, so I would assume that they will. And finally, we have Fiddle. Similarly to Carolong, I do think that Fiddle will receive a full staff. They have been able to display a pretty good range on their instrument, and I think it shows that they'd be capable of filling a full staff. Although the majority of their playing is short notes, I think they'd be able to surprise us with held notes. However, at the same time, I can see the monster handlers sticking to the safest options and revoking such an option for Fiddle. Alright, so Editor Me is here, and I wanted to record this part because I clearly forgot about Jamboree. Alright, so first things first, I think Jamboree is going to have a full track because it really only plays the one instrument. And since it's a synthetic sound, I do think it can easily fill up a full staff in the app. As for held notes, I do think there's a good chance that they will receive them because they have shown the ability to play held notes, but there could be a problem. So Jamboree's held notes have been shown to do a wobbly effect when they're elongated, so that could definitely clash with the song's rhythm and all that jazz. It could be another Nebulob situation, but in a different way. So we would preferably want to avoid that, but I guess we can see, because at the same time they could change it up and it could just be a different long note that will not rhythmically clash. And with that being said, that concludes my ideas for the auxiliary seasonals coming to the Composer app. It was fun doing another one of these modifications of my MSM Composer predictions, and I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Like I said throughout the video, I would like to see what you all think about certain monsters and also the video as a whole. This will probably be the last of these types of predictions though, since I usually like sticking to rare and epic variant predictions, but we'll see if these ideas ever come true, I suppose. Again, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all later. See ya!